Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Chris McMahon, and by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to perform the Cossack squat without any aches or pains. Now, before we go any further, please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, you have notifications turned on, and if you want to get started with some more hip mobility and you're not sure where to go, click the link below, get my free hip mobility guide. It's guaranteed to get you out of pain, guaranteed to give you buttery smooth hips. So let's dive into the video. We're going to work from the ground up to be able to really master the Cossack squat. So that means we're going to start with our ankles, which tend to be a problem area because we need to be able to have enough flexion so that our knee can go past our toe and our heel stays on the ground. And one great drill for this is something called like a half calf raise. So we're really emphasizing the stretched position and also strengthening our ability to push up from that position. To perform the half calf raise variation, you're going to make sure you have a step to use. Have shoes on. It's going to feel a lot better. If you have a slant board, then you can be barefoot, but I find that with shoes on, it gives you a little more safety and allows you to get into a deeper range of motion. All we'll do is we're going to push up about halfway. We're not going to go all the way up, about halfway, and then from there we're going to pull ourselves down into the bottom of this stretch position. We're going to hold for 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and then push ourselves halfway back up, and then lower back down. A couple of key things to watch out for when you're performing this movement is that when you're lowering yourself, you're actively trying to pull the top of your foot to your shin. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is bend your knees, and that's actually not what we're going to focus on here. We want to make sure that we have a straight leg to really get that deep stretch position. Keep pulling those toes up towards your face and get that stretch for 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, then push yourself half up. Again, for 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. You're going to want to perform about 2 sets, 10 to 15 repetitions. I know it sounds like a lot, but we're really working on mobility here. So that means you're going to have to work a little bit harder. Okay? Thanks. Now we're going to take that range of motion that we developed by performing the half calf raise, and we're going to further emphasize this by allowing the knees to pass over the toes. The way you're going to do this is stand about 2 foot lengths away from the wall. This is my wall. And then we're going to drive our knees forward. Now notice how my knees come forward and I'm not actually squatting. I'm letting the knees drive forward. That's as far as I can go comfortably. From here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to drive my toes into the ground, almost like I'm pushing down on a pedal for a car. I'm going to drive my feet down for 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to try to pick my toes up towards my shin and allow my weight to shift a little further forward. Whoop, getting into more range of motion. Now for you, maybe your flexibility is about here. That's okay. So we're going to just do 3 sets of this. You're going to drive those toes down into the ground for 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, then pick your toes up. Like pull your toes back towards your shin and let that weight pull you forward. You're trying to get a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. After you perform a few sets of this, you're going to feel some cramping, maybe in the front, and that's okay. Now we're going to push ourselves away. And then for the final set, what you're going to do without holding on to anything, you're going to allow those knees to come forward. You're going to come down as low as you possibly can, really load it, and then come back up. You'll do 10 to 15 repetitions of loading it and coming back up. You're only going to do 2 to 3 reps of pushing your toes down into the ground, pulling yourself deeper. We don't want to irritate anything, and this is a nice way that we can load this position that tends to be overlooked when it comes to any sort of squat variation. So now we're going to pay some attention to our hips, and this is really important because we need to have that opening in our hips to allow us to sink deep enough into the Cossack squat. So this is what I'll call a bent knee hip opener from standing. Couldn't think of a more creative name. If you have one, let me know. From here, you're going to have your foot facing out either at 45 degrees or 90 degrees, so long as your knee is tracking over your toes. And then you'll have the other leg completely straight. Now, I'm using a stair. You can be down here, and that could be more than enough for you. For me, this is where my mobility is today. Now, you can do this with body weight or with weight. I'm going to demonstrate both ways. All you're going to do is you're going to put your hands on your waist, and you're going to push your butt back as if you were deadlifting or hip hinging, and then you're going to come back up. So I'm going to scoot up forward a little bit more so I don't bump into the railing. You're going to push your hips back and come up. Now, as you push your hips back, you want to make sure that this leg is pulling back. We don't want it to cave forward and our knee to come forward. So push that back. When you do this, you're going to feel a big stretch through the hip, through the glute, and it's going to feel really good. You'll even get some hamstring in there too. Now, to mimic what we're going to do with the weight, you're going to take your hands, cross them across the thumbs across, and then you're just going to reach back behind you. And you'll come up. Again, we're aiming for 10 to 15 reps of this per side for 2 sets. Doing mobility here. Here I've got a kettlebell, same idea. Reach back, let that kettlebell come back, and come up. You do the same thing with the dumbbell. Back. And to make yourself come back up to standing, drive that foot into the ground. And of course you would perform it on each side. We're going to continue to build on our hip mobility. Take 3. We're going to continue building our hip mobility by taking a look at the horse stance. Now this builds on the previous movement, so you're going to see the big carryover here. Start with your legs together, and from here you're just going to move your feet out so they're slightly wider than hip width apart. Okay? We're also going to make sure that our feet are turned out. If our feet are facing forward, we're going to find that there's unnecessary stress that we place on our knees. So we're going to turn it out. And from here, all you're going to do is you're going to sit yourself down into that squat as deep as you can. Notice how my knees are tracking over my toes. I'm not letting my knees cave in. I'm pushing my legs out, my thighs out. I'm also sitting back nice and tall and sinking down deep. We want these to be completely straight. If I was to put a dowel here, it would stay in place. And this is a big stretch, and you're just going to hold it for 30 seconds. You're going to do 3 sets of 30 seconds, just holding it down here. And I'm going to show you from the side, and this is what we don't want. I'm going to come down and I'm going to round. Right? This is not what we want. We don't want to be sticking our butts back, although that is some mobility work there in and of itself. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull yourself up, and imagine you're keeping yourself pulled up while sinking yourself down. And if that's too much for you, like you find like, oh, I still have a lot of butt stuff going on, you can move your feet a little closer together. Maybe that's where your horse stance is, right? The more you practice this, the more advanced the movement becomes, the deeper you can get in this wide position and feel in control. Feel like you have that strength through your groin, enough through your glutes to pull those legs back. This is eventually how people can get something like a center split. Now that we've spent time looking at our hips, we want to address the groin, because believe it or not, this is going to be the thing that causes the most trouble for individuals when you're working on the Cossack squat. It's not uncommon for people to pull their groin because they're not used to being in that stretched position or to have the strength in their glute to pull themselves in and out of that strength, in and out of that stretched position. That was a bit of a tongue twister for me. So what we're going to do is you can use a box, you could use a workout bench. For me, I'm going to use a set of stairs. You might actually have your leg on the ground if we can't even get into this position. Either way, the concepts are still going to apply. So from here, I'm going to have my hands on the ground. I'm going to take one leg out and place it up. Okay, this is my stretched position. This is where I am today. I'm going to show here for just demonstration purposes. You can have your leg to the side like this, or you can have it flexed depending on your ankle mobility. From here, all you're going to try to do is you're going to push your leg down for 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and then you're going to lift off, keeping your hips level. Now this is really hard for me. I'm shaking in that position. That's how you know you're actually at the right height. It shouldn't be, because if I was down here, for me, and I was doing this, well, that's really easy for me, yeah? Yes, I'll tire out the glute, but I'm not actually building the strength that I want to build. We want to build strength at end range because that's going to carry over. So again, I'm going to be demonstrating here, but if you can't even lift, then you know you need to use a lower surface, and that's completely fine. From here, you're going to drive that leg into the ground, and for 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and then you're going to lift as much as you can for 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and place it back down. Now you'll perform this on both sides. 3 sets is all you're going to do. 3 sets per side. So you push down for 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. You lift, you'll probably cramp in your glute. I'm going to do this from the side. I'm going to do this on the other side and turn around so you can see that my hips stay level the whole time, because that's the most important part. We don't actually want to be borrowing the mobility from somewhere else. So I have my leg up. I'll leave it flat down for this instance, and from here I'm driving down for 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, then I'm going to lift off, keeping my hips level, not borrowing the mobility from anywhere else, and bring it down. One more time, I'm cramping up. Drive down for 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, lift off for 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, drop it back down. Every time you bring that leg down, you want to make sure that you have control. Don't just slam it down like I did on that last one. Every inch of that eccentric portion where you're lowering is building that strength. So this is a biggie. Do not skip over it. Now we're going to take all the mobility work we did. We're going to seal it in. You can do this for 2 sets of 30 seconds to 45 seconds per side. It's what we call the wide monkey. So you're going to be in a wider stance, almost like a sumo squat position. Get down low. From here, what you're going to do is place one hand on the ground, the other hand on the ground, and shift the weight forward so your heels lift. So one more time. One hand on the ground, the other hand on the ground. Straight arms, push through the arms. Shift the weight forward into your hands. Make sure you can do this on both sides and that you practice loading, because the last thing we want is you to bend your arm and smack your face on the ground. So let those heels lift up. Now the next step is we are going to shift our weight into those arms. We're going to hop and have one foot replace the other. One foot replace the other. Okay? So stay down low. One foot replaces the other. Allow your heels to drop back. Shift your weight so you can go for another one. The important thing here is come up as high as you need to allow those heels to drop. So if you're up here, cool. If you're down here, cool. Right? As you improve your mobility, the more you practice getting into this position, the deeper you'll get. One foot replaces the other. Shift. One foot replaces the other. Shift. Now, the more you practice this, the wider you can go. Shift. Stay low the entire time, really using that range of motion. Really prying those hips apart. Now that your hips are loose as fuck, we're going to actually look at the Cossack squat. First, you can perform this using a squat rack, a door frame, something that basically can take your weight so you have some support so you can actually get a feel for what's supposed to happen in the Cossack squat. So stand with your feet a little wider than hip width apart. We don't want them too close together because then we're going to have a really funky time getting low enough. And from there, what you're going to do is you're going to hold on so your weight is being supported, and then you're going to push your butt back as far as you can and drive off the opposite foot. So now I'm sitting back. So I'm just exploring this, getting used to that range of motion. A lot of people would skip this and be like, this is boring, I don't understand. It's really important because you're giving yourself a chance to load that hip with the opposite leg completely straight, which is something foreign for a lot of people, new for a lot of people. Maybe you'll find that you're going a little too far forward. We want to drive that, push that knee out, push our butt back, push back as far as you can. It'd be really helpful if you have a squat bench, if you have a bench behind you, try to sit onto that bench, holding on to support. As you get more comfortable with it, you can go lower, yeah? And to make things actually a true Cossack squat, you're going to allow your foot to rotate up. This is going to let you get a little bit deeper, get into that groin. And then once you feel comfortable enough, walk yourself down, get nice and low. Come back up. Till eventually you're just guiding yourself down. Again, you still need that support, and that's okay. And this is the assisted Cossack squat. Once you feel comfortable with the assisted, we're going to go with a foot elevated Cossack squat. You can have a box, you can have a stack of books, you can have a bench, whatever you need. And what you're going to do is pretty simple. You're going to have your foot turned out on the bottom because we're going to allow that to come up. And all you're going to do is you're going to have your knee track over your toes. You're going to sit down as deep as you can into your squat and come back up. Again, driving that leg into the ground so we have it nice and straight. Sit down and allow yourself to come back up. When that feels easier, you lower the height. It's very straightforward, as if you were working on like a pistol squat or a shrimp squat or even your regular squat, having a target to sit back to. When that gets easier, again, you would lower it down, lower it down, lower it down until eventually you're coming all the way down into your squat. Let's say that you're ready to lower to the ground from the foot elevated Cossack squat, but you still kind of don't have the balance point for it. It's hard to find for you. I suggest using weight, a weighted Cossack squat as a counterbalance. So here I'm holding onto a kettlebell. It could be a really light weight. It could be like 5 pounds. I just happen to have a 20-pound one. So what you're going to do from here is you're just going to squat down, hold onto that kettlebell, come down as low as you can with the heel staying in contact with the ground, flex up, come back up. You'll perform it on the other side. Now, once you can finally do that with comfort for reps, then take the weight away or start working down to a lighter counterbalance weight until eventually you come down comfortably into the bottom of your Cossack squat, making sure that that knee is staying out and that you are getting down nice and deep, really accentuating that stretch position, having a long spine, and come back up. Once you've been working on your Cossack squats for a while and you're confident in the movement, you can move on to one of the more advanced variations, which is a Typewriter Cossack. So this is going to combine your sumo stance position. You'll come down nice and deep, and from here, you're going to shift your weight over to one side. And before you drop down, you're going to think about pulling yourself into that bottom position, lengthening your spine, staying down nice and low. Now, you might find you can't get as low as normal, but that's okay because you're developing that strength through that range of motion. You'll then rotate the foot, put it back down, come over to the other side, staying low the entire time, keeping that spine up nice and tall. Pulling yourself down so you're active in that position. And then you'll transfer over to the other side, staying low the entire time. It's important here that you move with control throughout an entire range of motion versus just trying to force yourself into that position. You're pulling yourself down, having control. This is how you establish this range of motion so that you can use it even when you're cold. Once you can perform the typewriter for reps, staying low, then you can add external load. I do not recommend doing this variation until you can comfortably load the squat. Variation number 1 is going to be holding it in the front position. Now, holding this front position is like a front squat. It's going to really use a lot of core, really be a lot of quad, but it's going to help you stay nice and low. So again, we find our horse stance position or sumo squat position. We're going to shift our weight over, allowing that foot to turn up, turn it over, stay low the entire time, up, and over. The most important thing is you feel like you're pulling yourself along, as if you are moving along that typewriter. It's not just loosey-goosey, and you're really going to feel it here from having the extra external load. If you were to have a barbell, you could do it with a barbell just without any weight across your back, and that's pretty advanced. I'm going to take this kettlebell. I'm going to bring it around so it's resting on my back. From here, I'm going to come down as low as I can with control. Keeping that weight on my back really changes and gets deeper into the groin. Stay low, flex, and that is your Typewriter Cossack. You've worked through a lot of progressions. Now we're on to the most advanced, in my opinion, variation of the Cossack squat, which I call the circular Cossack. This is literally combining every single progression we've laid out and really forces you to have to control every inch and use full range of motion and full mobility to be able to perform this movement with perfection, although it's never really perfect, is it? We're always working on it. So from here, you're going to start standing up, and then you're going to come down into a Cossack, transfer into a typewriter, come up into standing, and perform it again. This is a circular motion. We're trying to stay low and controlled the entire time, really working on controlling every inch of that Cossack squat. This is a doozy. It's pretty advanced. Stay low the entire time. When you get more comfortable with the movement, you can add load. I recommend the front position, front carrot position. It's best for this. I don't recommend the back squat for this variation. It just doesn't feel as good. So I like to think that this was a pretty detailed tutorial for the Cossack squat. But of course, look, if you have any questions about any of the movements, all you got to do is comment below. I answer every comment, I promise. And if you've really found it helpful, do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you know when my next helpful tutorial is coming out. And if you want some more help with hip mobility and things like that, remember, just click below. You can get my hip mobility guide. Super easy to follow along routine that is guaranteed to get you out of pain, deliver buttery smooth hips. And without further ado, remember, you're one day away from getting back on track and one day away from realizing how fucking amazing you are.